Merhaba, good morning. It's a really great pleasure to welcome you here in Bodrum. In Air Transport News we start doing events, small events, but high-level events around the globe. And thanks to Serkan Bey, Serkan Kaptan from TAV Airports, that we met last August, and also with Aviation, we decided to launch a new event that we say the Bodrum Aviation Conference. And here we are in this magnificent place and with this fantastic background view of the port and of the castle. The theme of this year is the DNA of aviation. What are the opportunities and challenges? Regional development, trade and tourism are largely dependent on transportation accessibility. The concept of sustainability is multi-faced and understood in different ways by different people and different organizations. Yet, COVID-19 has proven a major catalyst at various levels, expediting previously observed trends and underlying business dynamics. The airline and related supply chain partners suffer from unprecedented financial difficulties. All we have faced this over the years of COVID. And of course, to determine of the air connectivity too. We saw how important was to have the connection during COVID times, and also the supply of medicines and vaccines in order to get back to normal. However, we have also climate change that is a top of policy agenda. You see more and more. We knew that before COVID, that was in the agenda, but now we see it's more and more critical for aviation. And we need, of course, to find solutions, because there are many people that are attacking us as a polluting industry. That reality is much different, as also with Fabio and other key stakeholders we are talking over the last year. However, we have also new technology that it's more important. Innovation play a critical role. We are leading in many aspects in the industry. I remember two decades ago that e-ticketing was innovative for everyone, and then we were the first to have this kind of approach, and now every way you travel or whatever you use the e-way that was launched by Aviation. Of course, the societal pillar of sustainability should also be acknowledged. After all, transport is carrying the people. This conference today will focus on all this issue, highlighting how airlines, airports, NSPs, ground handlers, and other companies can step beyond their typical supply chain conflicts to jointly pursue sustainable cooperation practices that will bring great benefit not only for aviation business, but also for the region and the local societies like we are here today. That was also the choice of the place to be here in Bodrum and not to be in a major city, a major capital. Business leaders, regional, local government representatives, and other eminent personnel will consider all these important issues and provide insight for air transport leaders around the world, as well as discuss the best practices and the way forward. The DNA of aviation and the application to be made to overcome the current difficulties with the current opportunities will be emphasized. I would like to close my welcome by thanking, first of all, our co-organizer at TAV Airports and Serkan Kaptan and his great team that will make it this possible, this gathering today. Of course, the Gold Sponsor Haiti and also Chelebi that helped materialize this very good event. Then the secretary, and I would like to invite Serkan Kaptan for a keynote address, the CEO of TAV Airport.
Thank you all. Welcome to Bodrum. Thanks for coming all the way to Bodrum for our international guests. Bodrum is a great place to live and to visit. It has a history of over 3,000 years, this city, and we are pleased to serve to this city as its main airport, Milas Bodrum Airport. We have guests from the airport here as well. So I would like to talk a bit about TAV, group of companies, and aviation of today, where we are and where we are heading to. Just for our friends who may not know much into the company, it's an airport company where we only operate and do airport business, but we do all means of airport businesses. On the left-hand side, which you see over there, is the airports that we manage. In Turkey, we are operating 5 airports, the largest being Antalya Airport. In Antalya, we are partners with Fraport. Antalya is an important gateway. It's just before the pandemic, 2019, it had over 35 million passengers, where 29 million was international passengers. When we say international passengers, it's O&D international passengers, which represents actually the largest international passenger coming in and out of the country. Of course, Istanbul is the largest base in Turkey. However, there are a lot of transfer and transit passengers which pass by the airport and do not have the sense of the country or the city. So Antalya is very important for us. It's a partnership with Fraport, as I mentioned, and it has a long maturity till 2050. Touristic destination, and it's one of the biggest cities of Turkey. In Izmir, we are also witnessing a huge growth of international passenger. This year it's going to be around 4 million international passenger in Izmir. Then comes Gazi Pasha. It's the secondary airport of Antalya, rather a low-cost airport, we would say. Small in size, it's like 1 million passengers, where 600,000 is for international passenger. And Bodrum Airport. Bodrum Airport is one of the main touristic destinations for Turkey. The international passenger is around 2.5 million. However, we have a lot of connecting passenger via Istanbul. So overall, the foreign visitors coming to Bodrum, either direct or through Istanbul, is roughly around 4.5 million passengers. So after the Turkish airports, our new jewel, Almaty Airport in Kazakhstan, we have bought into Almaty Airport back in 2021 during the COVID period. So during COVID, the company was ambitious to grow, so we didn't stop following up the opportunities. We have started discussions back in 2019, end of 19. We had discussions continuing on 2020, and we closed a deal with the current, at that time, the owner of the asset, and we took into operations, we get into operations by May 2021. Then comes Medina in Saudi Arabia. It's the one and only fully privatized airport in Saudi Arabia. It's an important asset because, as you know, Medina has one of the 2 holy mosques for Muslim religion. So it's a rather pilgrimage destination where we have a lot of Hajj and Umrah passengers. There we are 26%. We were 50-50 with a local partner, with Al-Raji Holdings. We recently crystallized the asset and we sold 24% shares to our existing partner. Then Georgian airports, the 2 airports, Tbilisi and Batumi airports. We have been operating both airports since 2005. When we started in September of 2005, we get into a massive development phase. Batumi Airport was totally reconstructed from scratch, where we rebuilt the runway, terminals, and all associated facilities. And in Tbilisi, we renewed the runway, new terminals, and so forth. It's been already 18 years there, where we are really happy. Georgia is a special, consideration within the group because it's our first international operation. Till that time, TAV was more dealing with the Turkish assets. We had Ankara, Izmir, and Istanbul on board, but Georgia was our first international exposure. Then Monastir and Enfida airports in Tunisia, the 2 airports, rather touristic destinations on Hammamet coast, on the east coast of Tunisia, fully chartered international airports. Unfortunately, after the Arab Spring, the government couldn't get stabilized in Tunisia. There are some terrorist acts and uprisings. The traffic is rather low, but we expect it to increase. It was a favorite destination for French tourists some years ago, then became mainly for Russian tourists and some other European tourists. In North Macedonia, Skopje and Ohrid airports, we were awarded for this project during the global economic crisis back in 2008. So we started operating as of 2009. Massive developments in both airports. The traffic increased by fivefold for Skopje. It was around 500, now it's 2.5 million passengers. And for Ohrid as well, it's by the lake, Ohrid Lake, with the Albanian border. In Latvia, in Northern Europe, we are operating Riga Airport, all commercial outlets, meaning we have been there since 2010. We operate all duty-free food and beverage outlets, all commercial outlets, and we do the ground handling services as Havash in Latvia. Lastly, Croatia, Zagreb Airport. We are 15% shareholders. It's the minority shareholding within the group. However, we are the airport operators for a consortium of 5 parties. We have been operating Zagreb Airport since 2014, so this is our 10th year. And we brought in Havash as the ground handling company to Croatia through Zagreb Airport, which is a successful and long-term project which ends around 2040s. On the right-hand side, which you see as service companies, those are the companies where TAV operates. TAV holds 100% or 50% shareholdings, and these service companies are working in a matrix organization with the airports. So we do all services at an airport, including fuel, ground handling, security, duty-free, food and beverage, IT solutions, and hospitality service. We only do not operate air traffic control, but other than that, we provide all services related to the airports. ATU, the one on the top, is our duty-free company. It's a partnership with Heinemann, one of the largest duty-free and retail companies in the world, a German company. We started with them back in 2000 with Istanbul Atatürk Airport, and still continuing on this partnership where we operate in all these airports. BTA, our food and beverage company, they mainly do terminal catering, so we operate at the airport terminals as food and beverage services. But in some locations, we also provide in-flight services. In Georgia, in Croatia, in North Macedonia, in Tunisia, and Almaty, we provide in-flight catering as well to the airlines. Then comes TV operations services. It's indeed a hospitality company where we operate CIP, VIP, government reception halls, where we do meet and assist services, transfers in and out of the airport, and also we do the other commercial management like advertisement, retail outlets other than food and beverage, or duty-free services like leasing out the rent-a-car offices, pharmacies, and other facilities inside the airports. The technology company is rather a unique company. It started developing technology for the group initially. So we started looking for alternatives to SITA, ARINC, or similar providers, and we developed our own software where we deployed in our assets. Later the company grew bigger. Today the technology company is providing services globally. Just to give some examples, we are providing airport solutions in Panama, in Mexico City, 6 airports there, in Chile, to the west. In continental Europe, we provide a lot of services to Group ADP or Charles de Gaulle or the airports and some others. In Africa, we provide services in Kenya, Tunisia, Morocco, and lately in South African airports, AXA, we provide services to them. On the north, Riga, naturally, because we are operating there. And to the east, of course, Almaty, but we also provide airport solutions, AODV, CDM, for Indonesian airports, for Brunei airport and some other airports in that region. Then comes academy. It's rather small within the group. It's to train our people, not only for operations but also security and hospitality means. We have the academy, which works in-house, and we are part of ACI, Global Network for Training Center in Istanbul. Havaş, our ground handling company, which is one of the two ground handling companies established from scratch as Çelebi and Havaş. Later, Havaş established a partnership with Turkish Airlines, and we founded TGS, where we provide services to Turkish Airlines and third parties in the main 8 airports of Turkey. So it's a rather domestic company providing services only in Turkey. We have two main establishments as Havaş, one in Latvia, one in Croatia, where we provide services, but they also provide consultancy services for all the airports in terms of cargo, in terms of passenger handling and ramp handling, where we are. We may move on. So all in all, we are operating 15 airports in 8 countries. I would say that airports-wise, we are regional, because when you look at this map, you see that it's all around surrounding region of Turkey and the Stans. Almaty is the latest edition, so Saudi Arabia, Kazakhstan, Tunisia, Croatia, Georgia, Macedonia, Latvia, and Turkey is our basis. With this 15 airports in 8 countries, we have a portfolio maturity of 30 years. This is important because we are a listed company. We have no government shareholding, it's fully private. And we have never had an asset directly from the government. It all comes with the tenders. The company is rather young. We are 23 years old only. But within 23 years, we managed to have 15 airports in our portfolio through the tenders with concessions. So the analysts and the investors are valuing our company with the concession maturity. So our portfolio of 30 years is a good period for companies like us. That's why we wanted to mention it. And with the services companies in our portfolio that I mentioned, duty-free food and beverage, ground handling, and so forth, we are in 108 airports globally in 29 countries. This is also important to mention because services companies also opens us windows of opportunities. It's not easy to always find an airport project to invest or on sale or on concession, but services companies are more agile to get into tenders on duty-free food and beverage and others, where we have our people in and to follow new opportunities. Just to give you also an outlook about the volume that we are managing, at year 2022, where we did not fully recover from COVID, we reached a revenue of over 1 billion euros, 1,051 million euros. EBITDA of the company is 322 million euros. It's 2022. And the net profit was around 122 million euros. The number of employees around 36,000 consolidated with all groups, TGS, Havaş, and so forth. And we had around 78 million passengers. This year will be above 1.2 billion in terms of revenues, because we are in mid-October, it's visible now. It will be slightly over 1.2 billion, EBITDA above 360, and the passenger number will be over 90 million. So this is the outlook. As I mentioned, 15 airports in 8 countries, 5 main services companies for ground handling, hospitality, duty-free, security, and technology. And we are also part of Group ADP. Group ADP is one of the largest airport companies in the world. It's a French company, 51% owned by the French state, represented by French Ministry of Finance. So ADP bought into TAV back in 2012 and increased their shares in 2017, where they have control on management. So I'm appointed by ADP in that sense. When we look at the global overview of the group. As ADP Group, we have over 300 million passengers globally. So we are the largest airport platform, private airport platform in the world. The traffic recovery compared to 2022 was 88%. This year we're going to be catching up with 2019. We'll be slightly over 2019. And town traffic compared to 2021 was above 50%. And the recovery for the first 8 months of the year, as you see, is 104%, where we are 4% above our 2019 figures. So, this is what we're going to show. We call it 3 A's. During the COVID, during the pandemic period, as I mentioned, while we were trying to get hold of our passengers, employees, and trying to manage our assets, because we are not making money, but we are incurring OPEXs, we thought it's an opportunity for the company to grow further, and we followed up some projects, I would say. Antalya is one of them. Antalya is very important. In December of 2021, the government, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transportation of Turkey, go for a tender for Antalya Airport for 25 years beyond 2026, because our current concession is till to 2026. So we participated to this tender with our current partner, Fraport, and we got the award for another 25 years. It's a massive development where we will pay to the government 7,250 million euros of lease throughout the concession period. And we are investing over 700 million euros currently at Antalya Airport. This asset will be ready for operation by the end of 2024. I came yesterday from Antalya, we had our board there. It's a massive development. It's not only terminals, but we built 2 terminals, international, domestic. We are refurbishing the runways. We relocate all cargo, government reception, all VIP, CIP, 36 buildings at site. Massive development in 2 years will be completed. Almaty Airport, the airport is fully privatized. Unfortunately, it was lacking investment for many years. The previous owner of the asset did not invest much, so we get into a quick recovery period. Currently, we are building a new terminal, which will be fully international, and we will convert the existing terminal to a domestic one. The capacity of the existing terminal is just 2.5 to 3 million passengers, where we will be having 9 million this year. So it's very congested, unfortunately, but we are asking the Kazakh people to bear with us for half a year more. So beginning of June next year, we'll be opening the new facilities, a brand new international terminal, and the old terminal will be converted fully to domestic terminal. So there we have Air Astana, which is the base carrier, flag carrier. The growth in Kazakhstan is amazing. It's like, for domestic it's over 50%, for international it's over 30%. So we'll need continuously to develop the airport. Ankara Airport, the capital city, again, the Turkish government decided to make a tender in December of 2022, just 10 months ago. So we participated tender and we are awarded. So this concession will be till to 2051. Antalya is 2052, and Almaty doesn't have a concession. It's an asset ownership. So we value the asset like 99 years. That's how we come to this 30 years of concession period. So these 3 investments, the 3 A's, are very important to us, because in the middle of the crisis, I would say, in COVID period, we are awarded to these projects, but economic crisis is continuing on. We are paying a huge interest to develop these assets. The total investment is around 1.2 billion euros for the 3 assets. So, but we did the financing through multilaterals, through IFC, EBRD, and other development banks, some Turkish banks and some international banks. So all in all, this is the outlook that we are having for the future of TAV. We may continue on. So what is the global outlook? We are all from aviation industry, needless to say, but in 2019, which was our golden year, we had 9.2 billion passengers globally. It was great year for airlines, for airports, and for all aviation industry. Then came COVID in 2000. This 9 point was a big shock for us, and most of the 2.6 billion was on US, some Southeast Asian countries, but we as in the European continent, Middle East, our region suffered a lot. We had our aircraft down for 3 months, no flights at all, and airports needed to survive. And you know, we didn't get any state support from any countries because state was in difficult condition. We didn't lay off any of our staff, neither in Turkey nor in the other international airports, and we had to bear the cost. So it went down to 2.6. In 2021, it went up to 4.5, still halfway. 23 for our assets will be back to 2019, as I said, and will be slightly over 2019. But globally, if you talk globally, when we look at ACI world references, the full recovery will be at 2024. So we are 1 year ahead as airlines and airports in our industry, but the global recovery will be at 2024. Hope that will not have any further war or pandemic-related crisis again. And by 2027, the expectation is to reach 11 billion and almost 20 billion by year 2040. So this is important to mention because 2040 is just 17 years ahead. And we are talking about doubling the capacity of 2019, which means that airlines will grow, airports has to grow. When we look at airline figures, today the aircraft, the active aircraft carrying passengers, globally it's around 23,600 aircraft globally. And it's expected by Airbus Boeing that by year 2040 it will be 40,000, so almost doubling the number of aircraft. Of course, some will retire, some will come into service, but all in all, 2 times aircraft. And naturally, airports will grow. For that, we will need $2.4 trillion of investments for the airports globally. When we consider that only 15% of airports are concessioned or privatized, this 17 years is really a big headache for governments to catch up with this demand, to catch up with passenger and airline demand. So aviation industry will not be easy. It will grow, but we'll need a lot in the ground for the airports, for air navigation systems, and also for the airlines. On the right-hand side, what we wanted to show here is that before the pandemic, we were expecting the traffic growth like this, as the red dotted line. It was the expected growth trends of the global traffic. With the COVID, we had various assumptions. You know, some were saying that COVID will just take 3 months, 6 months, but it took longer, of course. As a base case scenario, we took the blue line. The base case is mainly for Europe, I would say. We have more optimistic scenario in our developing region. We call Turkey, Central Asia, STANs, Eastern Europe, Africa, and Middle East as developing parts of the world. We expect to follow the gray line. So somewhere around 2030s, we'll catch up with the original trend line. The pessimistic scenario is the green line, which we never hope, but that's the worst case. This is the medium scenario, and this is for our region. So we hope that will continue like this. We hope that will not be disturbed about the ongoing Russian-Ukrainian war and unfortunately the Israel-Palestinian issue. However, our industry is very agile. I mean, as a country, as Turkey, we got used to this because unfortunately, especially to the east and south of Turkey, it's always a turbulent area. We had the war in Georgia back in 2008 in our border. We had this. We always had crises in Iraq, Syria, Iran, Middle East, now in unfortunately Lebanon, Israel, and Palestine area. So the demand is there. The business is agile. The recovery is always quick. It's the first time that we have witnessed this, a crisis coming out of health. It never happened. We had, of course, SARS avian flu in the early 2000s, but still the bounce back was in 2-3 months, but this time it took 3 years. So hoping that we'll catch up with the gray line and we'll have a better outlook for the global recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Khan, for sharing the point of view of TAV and also give food for thought for the discussion we'll have after the break with Haidar moderating this really good panel. Now it's my great pleasure and honor to welcome here Fabio Gamba, is the Director General of AAC, the Airport Service Association. It's the association of the ground handlers, and it's really a pleasure to have him here today with us. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Kostas, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's a very big pleasure to be here in Turkey today. And by the way, talking of which, Attila Korkmazolu, the CEO of Jollibee, is sending his apologies for not being able to be here. And I feel a bit bad because he would have been able to talk in Turkish. I'm not able to talk in Turkish. You have to bear with me in English, unfortunately. We have, of course, Havaş, and we have TGS. And I took good notes of your presentation. You're doing also in-flight catering. You may know that I have the double hats of leading the ASA, the Airport Services Association, which represents ground handling, but also I'm leading the ACA, which is representing the Onboard Catering Association. So perhaps your company would want to join the ACA. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Anyway, I think the theme of today is DNA, challenges and opportunity. I wondered what a DNA or aviation could mean. I'm not that sure, but I intend this to be no, say, ex cathedra speech. I'd rather this to be a dialogue. So please do stop me if there's anything that I'm saying that either is not clear or you disagree with it. Because I don't think that I can quantify people, professionals like you are. I'm just going to give you a few of my inside view on these opportunities and challenges with respect to ground handling. Perhaps a quick word of ASA. ASA represents today 67 ground handling companies worldwide. It's growing pretty fast. When I started 4 years ago, we were 38. So it's a good growth rate, I must say. It's a not-for-profit association. It's based in Switzerland, but I'm myself based in Brussels. We're really looking at a number of aspects that I will comment on now, which I think represent the opportunities, but also at the same time the challenges for the industry. And perhaps to start with, in terms of opportunities, I was discussing last week with the CAAC of China, the European Commission and the CAAC had opened a dialogue. And China announced that they were they were actually implementing the liberalization of the ground handling markets in China. That is obviously a major step forward. And they're looking at different models. They don't really have a clear idea of how they want to do this. But obviously the European model is of interest to them because it looks like it's a balanced model. And so they're looking at the framework of legislation, let's say. And I think the example of China is an interesting example because it shows that a lot of countries are thinking of liberalization. And you might think that this is a good thing for ground handling, at least from a ground handling perspective. And I would have a qualified answer to this. Liberalization, yes, of course, it's important, it's good, it's going in the right direction. But at the same time, we've seen that whenever competition is total, there is no maximum number of ground handlers at a given station. It can be actually quite, it's a bit counterintuitive, but it may be a bad thing. By bad, I mean it may then make it extremely complicated for the 8, 9, 10, 12 ground handlers that you have at one station simply to survive. Because then the airlines have the upper hands in anything related to the service. And if something goes wrong with the service level agreements, they just terminate the contract and they move on to the next one. And so on and so forth. So we realize that in the approach to liberalization, in the approach to competition, there must be some balance. And of course, there is no magical formula. You cannot say that one given airport, you should have 3, you should have 4, you should have 5, or you should have only 2. But there are a number of quotas that I think in the European Union we have tried to implement. And as you know, there is a directive that says access to the market. That beyond 2 million passengers, you have to have 2 ground handlers. But there's no ceiling. And we've seen that those countries which had no ceiling and which were really applying full access to ground handling, those very countries had more difficulties to get out of the COVID-19 pandemic conundrum. For the reason that I mentioned before and for a number of other reasons, but it's true that, when you mentioned it, the fact that people lost their trust in aviation. They were laid out. So you had the chance, or the guts, or a mixture of both, not to lay out any people. Unfortunately, for most of our members, we had to let go of other people. We were not helped, or not throughout the 3 years by the authorities to be able to keep them. And in some cases, we had to lay off up to 50% of our workforce. Of course, these people never came back. Why? What would they? You know, they were laid off, and so they went to other industries, and we never came back. And that is a major problem that we are facing now, trying to convince people to still make a career and make a career out of ground handling. It's a tough job, as you all know. It's a very tough job. And it's not a job that is appealing to the youngsters. They see this as very demanding, very low in technology, and we all know, that youngsters are attracted by technology. And that is probably for us a major source of worry and concern. Will we be able, we as a labor-intensive industry, will we be able to face the future demand that you were alluding to? This is a major interrogation points. And a lot of the major companies are thinking we won't be able to do that if we're solely counting on the workforce, because we won't be able to attract. In some cases, even today, we have turnovers of 100%. That means that if you're hiring 1,000 people in January, by December, you have lost them all. So you may imagine the costs to the company in terms of training, in terms of hiring, and all the associated costs with that. And of course, a lot of airline companies are saying, well, you have unskilled people that work have never seen this face before. And the people that used to work with us, who we knew and knew our expectations, are not here. So what should we continue to work with? So this is a major thing. An additional issue is the lack of regulation. Now, most of the world, you to a certain degree as well, but as you probably know, ground handling doesn't have, in general, any regulation. It's not regulated. So typically, in many countries, the authorities believe that it should be left to the device of the airlines. The airline oversees its providers, and hence it oversees the ground handling companies that it works with. And that's good enough for the authorities. The airlines have in their asset the obligation to oversee their providers. And that is an issue because when you leave airlines oversee their providers, obviously the financing aspects will play a major role. And so here comes what we call, in ground handling terms, race to the bottom, because the airlines will eventually make out of the cost of the service provision the major cause for choosing this or selecting that company. And hence, once you are in this race, it's a never-ending bottomless pit, I would almost say, whereby you're not being judged by what you're providing, you're being judged by the cost that you're asking for. And hence, a lot of question marks with respect to safety. Is ground handling safe? If you're looking at a big country like the US, last year you had 4 lethal accidents. And that's unheard of. 4. People, not skilled enough, not trained well enough to understand that what they are doing is dangerous and will have repercussions. On top of that, when you ask blue collars to work close to an aircraft that is worth $7 million, the people who are earning the minimum wage, they are afraid of speaking up. There is no just culture in ground handling precisely because they are fearing of losing their jobs should anything happen. Even if they have a little bump on the metal, it's not a metal anymore now, of the aircraft, they will look left and right. No one has seen them. I don't report. Because if I don't report, what will happen of me? I will be sacked. Or so they think. But this little bump, especially in the 787 may have grave repercussions. So the whole safety aspect is a major safety and security, particular safety is a major aspect, which I believe Turkey and the European Union have understood. That's why I'm back now to the idea of regulation. That's why they're coming up with a regulation for ground handling. And that's almost a first in the history of ground handling. There are a few countries that have regulation for ground handling. Saudi Arabia has, Venezuela has. But they are very prescriptive and adds too much red tape. I think the EU approach is the right one. A declarative regime whereby ground handling companies have to declare their operations at a given station in a given country, and they can be audited by the authorities. The big question will be, if we are audited by the authorities, will that suffice for the airlines not to audit the ground handlers? Because that would create a paradox whereby we are being audited by an authority, the authority says, you're good to go. 6 months after, we are audited by an airline at the same station, and the airline has some findings. So what happens? Oh, but we have been okayed by the authority. Yeah, but for ISMS, you're not good enough. So who do we listen to? What happens? So that's a little bit the issue. We're a bit sandwiched between the authorities now, or soon, because the regulation in Europe will come into force in 2025. The airports, the landlords, which give us a license in Europe and Turkey, I guess. I don't know about Turkey, 7 years in Europe. I don't know Turkey.
We don't have renewals, it's ongoing.
Okay, easier.
Not like in
And the airlines. So we are serving three masters who say three different things. And that's why I think it is crucially important that the work of the European Union feeds the ICAO task force, and that the ICAO task force comes up with something, perhaps an Annex 20 in the future, we see, but more probably as an evolution of the obligation for ground handlers to have an SMS in place, which is today still not the case. You can be a man in the van, a mom and pop shop, and do service in many stations around the world. So I would say this is, again, one of the major issues, and I would conclude by saying that technology, well, two things, technology and the greening. Right? Technology is an interesting thing. It's something that has not bothered ground handling for the last 50 years. If you're paying attention, we're still using the same trolleys and trucks that we were using 50 years ago. No, the design is pretty much the same. Push-back truck is still the same. The toilet bar, and it's relatively straightforward. But I think things are changing now, especially because we cannot hire people anymore. We have to think, in terms of how can we replace the job that these people were doing. And so the question is, will ground handling shift from a labor-intensive business into a more capital-intensive business where robots or machine can at least partially take over and replace jobs that were tough, lifting luggage. In the future, I think the answer would probably be yes, but, and the but is related to the cost, always the same, the investment. Who will pay for these machines to take over? That requires a long-term thinking that, unfortunately, in airline industry, it's difficult to have. As we all know, airlines, the aviation, I should say, not only airline, the aviation sector has relatively short-term thinking. 1, 2, 3 years, perhaps 5. It's difficult to think beyond this. Also because it's very cyclical. So that's one. And the final point, which I think when we're talking about the DNA of aviation we have to address, is the greening of the industry. Until recently, ground handlers would say, it's not a problem, we just do what the airlines want us to do. Okay? Because we are their providers. If the airline says, or the airport says, we want 50% of your equipment to be electric, we do it. If they're not requiring it, well, of course, we won't. And that was the state of mind prevailing until the COVID-19 crisis. But I think now the lines are changing and moving a little bit. We realize that this is not something that we can say anymore. We can't, simply. And that is why I do believe that, first of all, only the major corporations will be able to finance the equipment, electric trucks, electric lorries, and what have you, which would lead to a consolidation. And also think that you will hear more in the coming month and numbers of ground handlers who want to anticipate the obligation that would come from the airlines to equip themselves with greater electric equipment, and who really set themselves a number of objectives to say by 2030 we will be 80% electric. The problem with that is the airports rate. Because it's nice to get all your trucks electric, but if then you have to queue at a given station because there's only one plug-in and you have to wait all night to be able to recharge the battery of your truck, it won't work. And that's why we're discussing now with ACI World and ACI Europe to make sure that if we shift to the electricity, that the infrastructure will follow. But I can tell you that's far from a given. And it's a tough discussion because airports, and we've seen that with Spain recently. Spain has allocated the licenses to 42 airports, 42 airports a few weeks ago. And there were a lot of requirements with respect to electricity. We're not sure yet that the financing of the obligation of changing the equipment will pay off in terms of precisely the possibility to get equipped and recharge the batteries of all the 42 airports in Spain. So I think in a nutshell that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I don't know if I said anything that you disagree with or you have any questions on, but I'd be glad to try and tackle any question that you might have. Thank you very much.
Is there any question?
Huge to Serkan Kaptan as fully organizing this event, and Kostas for his efforts to make it happen. And this is a great opportunity for us, to all of us, to discuss the opportunities and challenges as much as we can. At the first part, we have been listening some perspectives from the ground handling side and the airport and terminal operation side. And during the panel, we will discuss aviation-related topics from different perspectives: airline, airport, some software, and aviation professional perspective. The main topic will be the ICAO strategic objectives, because if we are talking about the DNA of aviation, without ICAO strategies and strategic objectives, it will not be completed. And also safety, security, efficiency, ATM, and capacity in one side. On the other side, the recent topics like innovation, digitalization. This morning it was mentioned about technology, artificial intelligence and others, big data, and sustainability. Of course, the economic side of the event will be much more important. And maybe at the end of the session, we will have Q&A session. If you have any questions, please take the floor and ask your questions. Now I would like to introduce the panel members. They are all very esteemed and distinguished aviation professionals. We know Mr. Mehmet Nane is the chairman of the board of Pegasus Airlines and the former chairman of the IATA management board.
Immediate past present. They have a new title.
Which one?
Immediate past.
Immediate past, yes.
It's a second.
There's feeling we need the services, operations, IT. So it's an integrated industry, and it's very crucial and very strategic industry for every single country. Especially for Turkey, it is very important because it's a net cash generating business. $85 is staying in this country. When we look at from that perspective, we We are a current account deficit country. We are a current account deficit country, and creating hard currency is very important. And tourism and aviation is the number one industry creating this extra. On the safety side, it is even not discussable. Safety is very important, both on the security side, on the aviation safety side. Sustainability is also important, because if you want to be sustainable, safety is a part of it. So sustainability is not only an environment-related issue, but it's also a holistic approach. So you have to be operationally sustainable, you have to be safely sustainable, you have to be financially sustainable, and on the environment side. When we look at from the sustainability and the ICAO side, there's going to be a meeting on the 23rd and 24th in this year, November, in Dubai. It's called CAF, CAFF 3. What's going to happen? You all heard about CORSIA. CORSIA is an initiative which was introduced by ICAO. And again, 2050, zero carbon emission from the aviation industry. But today, to 2050 is 27 years. What ICAO and the respective countries asked, and the CAF is coming together because of that for the first time, we need interim reporting for this. So, in this Dubai meeting, I hope they're going to make an agreement on the 2030, 2035, 40, 45 targets for SAF usage, because on the 2050 target, zero carbon emission, 65% is going to come from the usage of the SAF. And so far, the 2030 target is going to be between 4 to 6%. Nowadays, it's all 2%, very little in the whole globe. The reason there is not enough manufacturing of it. So all aviation companies, all airlines are ready to buy the whatever SAF is available in the globe, but there is not enough manufacturing. Currently, there is only one company, Neste or Neste, is producing SAF from garbage. Rest is producing SAF from grains, yağlı tohum. And there is a huge debate, ethical debate going on that part. Are we going to feed almost 2 billion hunger in the globe, mainly in Africa and Far East and Central Asia? Or are we going to take care of the environment? That's why synthetic SAF is becoming very important. For this purpose, we need R&D and investment. And unfortunately, I'm pity to say that there is no such an investment which can cover the requirement of the SAF of the airlines. So, 2050, if the target do not met, one of the main reasons are the fuel manufacturers, oil manufacturers. They are not willing to make investment, and they are not spending money on the R&D. There is for example, Turkey is on this part is a little bit advanced than some of the countries. In Bosphorus University, they are working to produce SAF from algae. And so far, they manufactured 20 liters of SAF from algae, and they need some investments. And we are talking with the Turkish Aviation Association head, with the Minister of Environment, in order to carbon offset amounts directly going to the recyclable energy companies buying their plus carbon credits. Let us invest in such projects to manufacture SAF from other material. Because this grain, as the world is climatically going towards a dry season, and it is going to be the case for the coming 100 years if we do not find a solution for the environment pollution. As the heat goes up, it's production is going to diminish. So this is going to increase the number of hunger in the globe and availability of food. And are we going to use that limited sources for SAF? So this is a big debate. I think this is a summary at the moment what's going on in the globe. And next month the meeting is very crucial because countries are going to decide what to do. And here there is a China, Russia, Brazil, India is representing, and they are saying that look, we are not developed yet. You Westerners have polluted the globe for the last 100 years. When the time comes to us to grow, you are saying that don't pollute the globe. So, what is this? How are we going to find a solution, amicable solution to this? This is the debate going on at the ICAO level and the country-wise. But because the Westerners, especially EU and the United States, is putting pressure, and they would like to, in a way, they call greenwashing, to greenwash their voters, they are promoting aggressive targets. For example, UK was promoting, when they were talking about 6% in 2030, 10%. But that's impossible. There is not enough investment in the whole globe. Even if the UK buys all the SAF produced in the globe, it can go up to 1.5% with the current investments. So they recognize this and they return back to the 6% level. Even 6% with today's investment capacity and the feasibility studies is not there. So this is a big issue and we're going to see how this is going to be solved. And what's happening, France did this. France said that starting from 1st of January, all the aviation companies flying to France has to use 1% SAF. And they forced the oil manufacturing companies to sell 1%. And they said if you couldn't be able to provide, you're going to pay penalty per cubic meter, 12.5 euros. What happened? None of the French oil companies make any production, they paid the fines.
Reflected to the airline.
Reflected to the airline. And what we have done? Reflected to
Ticket price.
your ticket price. At the end of the day, customers, our guests are paying this. They are demanding more environment-free issue, but they are not willing to pay. But as this goes, like in the France case, we are going to all pay this amount, and we're going to say, we are very proud, we are sponsoring the environment. But at the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game. We are not doing anything for the environment. We are just satisfying ourselves.
Thank you. This is the recent issue which the aviation industry is taking care of. As you said, there is a big expectation from ICAO to get the decision in United Arab Emirates to buy next month. But if there is no decision, so there will be a big disappointment. And also they may discuss the decision taken for 2050 with net zero emission. Thank you very much, Mehmet Bey. And I would like to return back to Tamara. So how do you feel the strategic objectives from your perspective, from your region?
Well, I would say that our region of the South now the Central Asia region, which I represent currently, for us, all of the strategic objectives are important. Although it's at a certain point, we know that region had, which is not the case anymore, region had the problems with the from our perspective. I would say that globally we still have to considering how diverse our aviation industry is. We still have to comply with the challenging requirement of the safety, security, and well, for us, one of the main topics in the nearest future is the development of our airports infrastructure, because Kazakhstan, is the ninth biggest country of the world. We have 24 airports at this moment, and the infrastructure there, of course, needs further development. The market is growing, and that will be the main aspect of the next several years, including, of course, the development and update of air navigation facilities, which is one of the ICAO global goals, I would say. And of course, the development of the personnel, because there is also an active lack of personnel, and it's not only about our region, but also the whole global demand is there, including not only the ground handling, but including pilots and cabin crews. So all this is also envisaged and acknowledged by the country and our region there. And I would say that the growth which we're facing right now, there is always a need of the management of change, because the very fast-growing aviation industry always needs support from the partners, and I'm really very happy that later, throughout the past years, the region is very much attractive to the foreign groups which are coming and sharing their experience. And as you can see, on a state level, it is very much supportive for the international level experts to go and support the development there.
Thank you, Tamara. Yes, as you said, the government is very important to take or support the aviation activities, and that should be a political will in order to have the growth or making available infrastructure for aviation. So I am pleased to experience that Kazakhstan during the last couple of years is more visible within the international arena. So I would like to congratulate for Kazakhstan, and also looking forward to working with institutions on that respect. And it's clearly seen that Kazakhstan would like to be the leader of the region. It looks like something like that, right?
Yes.
It's clearly seen, so you are on the good track. Thank you. And now let me return back to Cembe, and you are completely dealing with the software, computer issues, how you will contribute the safety, security, or efficiency capacity of the aviation industry. You are also doing very great job, having 70 now, which is extremely great number. So what will you share with us?
Well, sure. Thank you, Cem Kırgız. I'm the sales director leading the global sales operations at atn Computer Services. We recently became last year a publicly traded company here in the Istanbul Stock Exchange. It's a pleasure to be with everyone in this leaders panel. So yeah, my perspective obviously are I think from two sides. One is obviously we are a technology vendor, so we are on the side where we actually support the airlines, based on the technology that we provide in many aspects that I'll talk about. And also at the same time, I'm coming from a background where I'm talking to airlines, trying to promote a brand in an environment that is dominated by a duopoly. So we provide what is called in general the passenger service systems of airlines. And as you know, this particular industry has been dominated by two particular companies, Sabre and Amadeus, for maybe 50 years or so, ever since technology was invented as a system within the airline industry. So what I have seen, and we have seen, as you said, quite a tremendous growth over the course of, I would say, 5 years, starting from 2018 especially, where in 2018 we had about 15 airlines as a customer base. Pegasus has been with us since the beginning. Still the largest customer that we have in terms of airline partnership and providing our technology for them. But also, imagine growing from a 15 airline customer base to about a 70 now airline customer base all over the globe, from Australia to North America to Southeast Asia and to Africa. Now, what I have seen, and I also come from a financial background, I used to work in the banking industry, and I could easily tell you that, and this kind of goes along with what you were saying, Mr. President, is about, the whole thing about everything being symbolic, and I see that in aviation quite significantly from an outsider's perspective. What makes airlines unique especially is that they are limited by the limitations of their technology. That's not the same, for example, for a manufacturer where you can still have, let's say, pretty bad technology or non-sufficient technology, let's say, but you can still develop something and still sell it and still be successful. That is not the case in terms of airlines because everything is regulated, everything is done to the systems. And but when you look at from the other side, they're also the most risk-aversive and most resistant to change. And this is primarily because on the management level of the airlines, in general, generally speaking, are very risk-averse. Nobody wants to try anything new. And I'll tell you a story. So one big deal in technology with airlines is distribution, right? So every airline wants to be present in all the sales channels, online travel agencies, GDSs, travel agencies, and all of that, right? So in order to minimize the cost of this infrastructure, which is still dating back maybe 30 years, by the way, IATA came up with something called NDC. It's called New Distribution Channel, right? About 15, 16 years ago, from what I hear. I wasn't in the aviation industry back then. It's still called NDC. 15 years later, they still call it NDC. But they don't mention that it's New Distribution Channel. They just use the abbreviation like most aviation professionals do. So what I'm trying to, and now, after COVID, because we've seen so many airlines disappear, when you talk about sustainability, we'll talk about it from a climate perspective, but I think we should also talk about it from an airline perspective. You talk about, we lost Atlas here, Bodrum in Turkey. We saw the leaving of Jet Airways in India, Thomas Cook in England, and I can name many, many more smaller airlines that we haven't seen in the news, let's say over the course of 3-4 years. And the reason being, what I see COVID and that graph that Mr. Sarkam was showing was, that graph where it was a dip during COVID. I view that as, maybe we all seen that person that smokes cigarettes, the heavy smoker, and then suddenly, and they say they will never quit smoking ever in their life because they love it, right? And then they suffer a heart attack and manage to stay alive. They have to quit now because, in order to stay alive. That's what that dip was in terms of aviation. From all perspectives, as you said, it's all integrated. I'm speaking specifically about airlines, but obviously ground handlers, airports, everything is connected. So people had to forcefully look at, managing the costs. What can I try something new? So these are some things that aviation professionals kind of look at if they have to. So when you talk about, from a technology standpoint, promoting it as brands from a global perspective, we started seeing that, and we actually saw a tremendous growth because people are looking at from a cost-benefit perspective instead of just going with the flow and going with whatever is the most popular during that day. By the way, we are with Fly Aristan, so we are very much, we've been working with the low-cost airline of Air Astana over in Almaty, so we are seeing that tremendous growth in Kazakhstan as well. It's a very good customer, it's a very popular customer of ours, and I think, and they are as far as trying to achieve, that's the message that we've been giving, and it seems to have worked so far for us, and we hope to support the airlines. And one last thing that I want to mention is, there's roughly 1,000 airlines in the world, and from small to big perspective. Another big obstacle that I see is not every airline is Lufthansa or American Airlines or AirAsia or Singapore Airlines or Turkish Airlines. There are many, maybe there are 20 airlines that say that are that size and that are important. Obviously, they're the leaders and all of that. But there are many smaller airlines that support regional stations, regional airports that are not really accounted for when these discussions are happening. Everything is about Emirates, everything is about Lufthansa, Air France, and all of that. And I think that is another key missing topic that I see in aviation, where the big guys are always there, the big guys talk amongst themselves, and the little guys have to follow. So that I see that changing a little bit, but I see that also as an obstacle. And that's the reason why we've seen so many smaller airlines disappear and just leave everything to the bigger players out there.
Thank you. You have touched upon very important issues, especially resistance to change is one of the basic issues. As Tamara said, change of management or management of change is also another topic. And data, safety data, commercial data, and all kinds of data are very important for the safety management of the aviation industry. Therefore, the big data and artificial intelligence digitalizations are coming on that reports which you have mentioned. So thank you very much, and we will return back to that issue maybe during the second round. Kostas, you are producing daily bulletin and reaching 60,000 people every day. So what do you look at the issues from your perspective? What will be your comments?
Okay, thanks Hadar, thanks for all of you to be here today. Again, Serkan for really make it happen. You know, I'm having these two hats, the one the media hat and the other the Hermes hat, then I can say, you know, I have this possibility to be in different events, and you know, all of you touch issues that are critical for aviation. For some regions, one topic is more important, some other region is something else. For sure, as Mehmet said, that sustainability, but sustainability in every aspect, not only about the environment. We have to be sustainable, you know, and this after COVID times we saw that is one way, is one direction. Then period. We have to adjust to the new reality. Linked to this, we fail as an industry, and this is Mehmet and Fabio know very well, we fail to show what we have achieved as an industry so far in the world, in the people. We many times were the easy target, that we don't do anything, that reality is different. We have done many things. I said in my opening that we are innovative. You know, e-ticketing was started in aviation. Then now you take a boat, you take a train, you go to the cinema. Is everything e-ticket or whatever? Passport. The size of the passport is an initiative of ICAO. The standardization of the passport is coming again from the aviation. Then we've made a ton of things as an industry, and we do a huge effort about the environment. I remember that was my first IATA GM back in 2007 in Vancouver, that we touched about the environment. That was not a la mode at the time. It was not even touched by many people. Then we are serious, we take things seriously, but we missing the part to show to everyone that we have made a lot. And that's what with Mehmet and Fabio and among others, we launched an initiative from last year, and soon, hopefully, inshallah, in Qatar in Dubai, we have a press conference of all the leaders with a campaign that we're going to promote what we do as an industry to the society. The youngers, you know, I have two sons, then working with the EASA closely and also in the civil aviation in Turkey, that, you know, this is a new reality. We'll see. Drones will be, you know, UAVs and so on. It's part of the new norm of aviation. We'll see that in next Olympics in Paris, flights that will be integrated to the already packed system. Then we move congested skies. This is a problem in Europe. Well, you know, I started the industry 17 years ago, you know, with my media, with Air Transport News. They were talking about the single European sky. Well, it's still the story and nothing happened. It's the congested area, continue to be congested, no solution. Then another issue, then something that affected especially the ground handling, affected all of us at the end, shortage of staff. That was an issue before COVID, and now this is more and more a problem. because we have to be attractive as an industry. We are not, sexy anymore. We have to change this. We have to attract the people. They need to come to us. And we know we need people that can be in the ground handling contracts, but we need to have also pilot. We need to have an MRO. And especially this part of the people, they need to be trained. You will not start, you cannot be trained them in a month or in a week. It takes years because you have to become a pilot, then you have to work. But I don't know if you saw, this year was a Google announcement early this year saying what was the dream job that was to search in Google. Can you figure who was number one? Become a pilot. I was expecting, if you were asking me the question, I would say it would be influencer, YouTuber, whatever. No. By far is to become, they're searching how to become a pilot. This is something, a message we need to take seriously. And not a YouTuber was much lower, influencer, and then you saw there was writer number 2 with distance from the search about a pilot. Then we have to get messages that we have to work. Then it goes to the other area that have to be linked. It's about governments. And they are the important and the weak part of the aviation chain. Important because they take decisions that is the way they're going to operate, and weak because they don't know about aviation. Then every country has a different agenda. Okay, we are in a country that understands aviation, but in Europe, many countries, they don't understand aviation. They see us the target. I still remember I was in IATA AGM in Berlin in 2011, I think 10 or 11. Then supposed to have the opening from the Minister of Transport, and the minister never came, and the same day they put a taxation in aviation. Then, we need to work with that. We cannot say we don't need a partner, wife, husband. There is always some issues, tension. It's part of the DNA of human being. Then you don't start putting in the news what's happening in your family. Then why we have to do that? We have to work together, united. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kostas. You mentioned about the regulatory framework, and as I mentioned, if there is a political will in that country, then everything will be possible. And Turkey is one of the good examples. In 2005, we had the new law making Civil Aviation Authority independent from the previous cases. Then the sector was also booming with the decisions taken by the government. Then corresponding regulatory authority came, but it has to be updated according to the development in the industry, which was okay, but probably we need another action from the government to update the current decisions. And thank you very much. Now, maybe in the second round, Mr. Chairman, what will be the potential disruption or the irregularities of aviation during the forthcoming period, and also what is the future of low-cost operation as the chairman of the low-cost company?
Successful low-cost company.
Give an example. For example, when we look at the land transportation, the amount of carbon secretion from the land transportation is 5 times than aviation. Marine transportation is similar to aviation. Have you heard anything about the marine transportation or land transportation about carbon zero targeting? No. Why? Because of the lobbying. And I believe that Greta lady, maybe on basis she's right, but she's sponsored by the land transporters or manufacturers in order to attract or attack the other industries and put the land transportation behind. And their lobbying structure is very strong, and she makes really good job. It's 5 times higher than airlines, but airlines is under radar. So what are the disruptions? There's also a demand for the friends and relatives to see each other. So you have less money, but you want to go somewhere. What do you prefer? Low cost. That's why when we look at United States, for example, the JetBlue and Spirit merger, which is waiting approval, or when we look at Europe, Ryanair's unpreventable rise compared to the big legacy carriers like Lufthansa, Air France, KLM, like the AIG group, and they're surpassing those performances. Or when we go to the Far East, Vietjet, Air Asia, or when we go to one of the largest markets, India, Indigo. Indigo is much larger than Air India at the moment. How come this can happen? Because people want to travel but do not want to spend money. That's why the future, as we go like this, and it's not going to be the case to have more wage increases than the inflation for the coming several years. This is the case for our 3 years midterm plan in Turkey also. So if we want to go, we have to spend less, and there's only one solution left. It's the low cost, or the cheapest one is hitchhiking. So autostop. Then, coming back to the disruptions of the industry, there are so many disruptions of the industry. For example, one of them is the fuel side. The fuel is getting really expensive. In 1 week after this Israeli issue, the Hamas and the Israeli issue, it increased by 8%. 8%. We measured the cost of this 8% in the last quarter of the year only for Pegasus. It is between 16 to 20 million euros. We're going to make less EBITDA because of this. We did nothing. Turkey did nothing. But the cost of Turkish business people, which is using fuel, increased in 1 week by 8%. In 1 week. It was 84 last week. Now 91 yesterday. I don't know what's today.
And also even there is no oil produced within neither in Israel or
Yes. So when you look at that part of the globe, between Taiwan and China, 60% of the global marine transportation. If something happens to that place, think about the availability of the products and the cost of the products. If you remember, at the start of the COVID, regular price of a per container was around $2,000. It went up to $12,000. Why? Because there is no demand for the products coming from China. The containers are going, but they are not coming back. That's why the air transportation, air cargo business boomed. Because it's much cheaper than container pricing. Lack of containers. So these are very crucial issues which is not under the control of the companies or people, but geographically related to the countries. This is number one issue. Second one is technology. Currently, there is no technology, not enough technology for electrification of the airlines. We're going to have the drones, but those drones cannot carry more than 12 or 15 people. The current technology, in order to have a single-aisle aircraft, either Boeing or Airbus, has to be around 150 tons of battery. So we need a new technology. Hydrogen is coming. Have you ever saw a hydrogen bus? I saw. Otokar has the hydrogen bus in Turkey. When the bus is moving, you're saying that is there a fire going on in the aircraft? Because when the hydrogen energy used in the engines, the byproduct is steam. And it's a heavy steam. Water is coming out as a form of steam, and it is really discouraging for customers. You think that there is a fire in the bus or in the vehicle. So that technology, again, currently is not enough to carry an aircraft. But all the airlines and all the engine manufacturers are working for 2035. Have you heard about this? In 2035, Boeing and Airbus is expecting a new technology. MAX is a new technology. NEO is a new technology. They believe that technology is going to change starting from 2035. And there will be a new type of aircraft. Is that with the fossil fuel? Is that with the electricity? Is that with the hydrogen or X, Y, Z? Nobody knows. But everybody is working on a new vehicle. That's why there's a gap. There's a huge increase of the existing orders until 2035. And after 2035, there are no orders yet. Because of this technology change expected by everybody. So, technology, regulations. Disparity between the regulations is also discouraging, like the geographical disputes. What does that mean? When we look at the Corona period, at that time we were flying to 42 countries. In the aircrafts we were carrying 42 different. That's a very important issue. So when it comes to the regulation for the ground handling or the rights slots, have you heard what Amsterdam did and what happened? They said that in order to cut the pollution, we're going to decrease the number of flights in Schiphol by 20%.
Yes.
We as IATA opened a court case and we won the court case. Now they are trying to do something through the government, which again we are opposed to. And there is no mechanism how they are going to cut that 20%. If a flight is coming from Tokyo in 12 hours, is that going to be a single flight? If a flight comes from Germany in 1 hour. So how they are going to make that decrease? And Schiphol is one of the main hubs in Europe, in the western part of Europe. If you cut 20%, you will kill it. Or, going back to France, France said that you're going to use train for the transportation less than 1 hour. You heard about that. And they did this for Orly. Do you know that they didn't apply this for Charles de Gaulle? You can fly to Bordeaux or Lille or Marseille from Orly, but you can fly from Charles de Gaulle. This is greenwashing. So disparity between the regulatory bodies are very important. Of that 1% issue. Luckily, other countries did not reciprocate that. If they started to reciprocate, okay, France did that, I'm going to do it. I'm a sovereign country. Italy, I will do it. Spain, I will do it. It's called Me Too race. So that's a big danger. So I think these three are enough.
Thank you very much. So there are many potential threats and disruptions to aviation industry, but there are some opportunities as well. So maybe we should touch upon that. And thank you very much for your view about the low-cost carrier issues as well. Yes, Samara, what do you think about the potential threats and disruptions of the aviation industry?
Well, the world is changing. The aviation industry is diverse, so it's inevitable probably that here are the visionaries of the aviation, leaders of the aviation who need to take lead and be more active, because coming from the industry to the regulator in my career, I really realized that the industry has to really work and to go further and to achieve their goals. For example, formation of new hub areas due to these active conflicts, unfortunate events, but still, unfortunate for some, it's the new opportunity for the other regions. For challenges, I would also outline the personnel, lack of personnel, and the lack of interest also, because there is easy money around the world, and the aviation job is, it's either you're poisoned when you work in this field, because it's a hard job. It's a 24-hour job. And I'm sure that all the managers and leaders in this presented in this panel and in this room, none of them sees their job as from 9 to 6. You are 24/7 there. There is no New Year. There is no any celebration for you. We live it this way. And either you want to live it this way, or you will just come, work for 2 years and leave the industry. And but that is also, we have, I think there are many enthusiasts. We just need to reach out and include people and embrace those enthusiasts a bit more, and also be more involved in attracting people in the civil aviation sector. Yeah.
Thank you. You especially underlined the lack of staff, but I believe during the COVID period, many aviation experts have been lost, as it is the case in other sectors as well. Because of the COVID, or after the COVID, many of the people do not want to spend their life to aviation only, then suddenly they may pass away. Therefore, they prefer to move to other side of the life to enjoy or spending their time for their family. So thank you very much. Can Bey, maybe something different from the airlines?
Well, sure. I think, maybe diving a little deeper into what I discussed earlier, one trend that we definitely see, and you're talking about low cost specifically, we're actually seeing network carriers and all of that are adapting these low cost strategies to increase their cash flow. One thing interesting that I saw, and this is mostly about focusing on airlines focus on direct sales channels, and by direct it means through their website, getting bookings through their website, getting bookings through mobile applications. All of these are obviously investing in technology. Well, as before, it was mostly a B2B market, and most of the legacy carrier models where what we call GDS, global distribution systems, or agency channels used to get majority of the money. When I started this job, I was shocked to learn that if an airline can make 5% profit from a travel agency booking, it was considered a pretty good rate. So if it's a $100 booking, there are so many middlemen in terms of whether it's technology, payment gateways, all of these middlemen take a chunk of it, and then eventually the airline is left with peanuts, basically. So it was really, people, I think, throughout the history saw this business as an easy money making, because the airlines take all the risk, airlines take all the effort and operation, and all these middlemen, whether you are a technology provider or somewhere around there, or some sort of an ancillary module that you provide to the airlines, get majority of the cash that the airline should be getting. So now, after COVID, when cash flows are obviously a lot more important, not that they need for, especially for domestic stations, they need that better cash flow, because domestic bookings are obviously less than international, they make less profit. Most airlines don't even make profit from domestic, by the way, especially the legacy carriers. So those type of trends are definitely something that we're continuing to see more and more for airlines that are trying to increase their profit, for sure. So that's kind of the key trend that I've been seeing in the market.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And yes, Kostas, what do you think?
First of all, I agree with all my fellow panelists here. The issue is that aviation is quite exposed to external shock. And it's what is happening immediately affects aviation. And I remember years ago, the financial guy that was working in Amsterdam was saying to me, they always monitor the stocks of airlines because they are the first to go down in any kind of shock, and the last to recover. And we are vulnerable to what's going on outside, and this is one of the attend for aviation. Therefore, as Mehmet said, I mean, the governments also, they can play a positive role, but can cause a lot of problems. The fact that, as I said earlier, that we are not unified, might be, and also the shortage of staff that still, as we said, it's an issue that might cause a problem. But we need to see the positive side. Unfortunately, we had this issue and situation in Israel, but then how people were able to be evacuated from Tel Aviv because they were afraid of their lives. But play, turn off the aircraft when they're using Athens as a hub, the Canadian Air Force and underline the United States to bring all the passengers, all the standard people from Israel.
See, there are many issues to discuss from the DNA or opportunity or challenging perspective of the aviation. But during the restricted time, we can only touch upon this kind of issues. But before coming to the final session, I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions to any of the panel members or myself. Please.
Not a question, but maybe a compliment to what Mehmet Bey talked about the sustainability side of aviation. As all the panelists rightly said, aviation has only 2.4% of all carbon footprint globally, whereas construction is 35%. Nobody talks about construction because it's a direct benefit to the contractors. What we see around all these buildings are increasing every day, every year, and it's all construction. You can imagine how much it pollutes or how much carbon footprint it creates. The 2.4% aviation carbon footprint is mainly because of jet fuel, that's true. Airports is only 2-3% of the 2.4. But for jet fuel, some things are overpromised. For instance, in ACI, I'm a board member of ACI Europe, we admit that going for this 2030 carbon neutral and 2050 net zero was very ambitious. Now it's being discussed. It's a target, but it's 27 years to go, but nothing is moving on. As you rightly said, the green energy, if we call it, SAF, it's not produced, nobody is going for it. Needs a lot of investment, it's very costly. Even in our new investments at the fuel farms, we are allocating 5% for the fuel farm, but imagine 5% for 2050 still not a good solution, not a solution at all. We talk about hydrogen to be enforced by 2040. However, we know the lifespan of the aircraft as well. If these new existing aircraft with better engines will be in the market by not taking into account the reality. And aviation is very, very visible. As you rightly said, we all look at the fighter jet coming and around. When we were kids, we were always looking at the sky to see the jet engine remains on the air. So it's very visible. Same as for airports. We always get criticism when things are bad. Nobody says the toilets are clean. Nobody says service is great. They only say toilets are, dirty. So aviation is very visible. Unfortunately, we are very much on the front line. For cars, nothing is moving. Electric cars, okay, they are produced, but they are coming with a big chunk of waste, which will be in the next 10 years, the batteries. Nobody knows how to recycle those batteries. So even the energy which we use when we use electric cars, we don't know the source of the energy. For sure, we plug them somewhere. Where that energy is coming from? Is it coming from a coal burn power plant, or is it solar?
Yes.
You don't know it. You say that I'm using it green. So it's very complicated. Nobody goes to the roots. But we have to express ourselves better. That's for sure. As aviation industry, we should express ourselves better. I mean, aviation industry is not much focused on the advertisement of this business. We should maybe more on the front line to say that what we produce.
Issues, and we will continue to talk about these issues during the next decades, or maybe 2-3 decades, and we will see if we alive what will happen on 2035 with the carbon emission. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? We are, please, Fabio.
It's not a question, just a compliment what was just said. It's interesting to make a parallel with the automobile industry, where in the European Union the decision was made by 2035 to forbid thermal engines. And now I think there is a retropedaling from a number of authorities, Germany and Italy being the first two ones to say 2035 I don't think it would work. So perhaps we should allow SAF for cars, and that SAF would be taken from the stock that the airline industry would need, right? So I don't see this going very, very well for the aviation industry, and you can bet that if the car industry is successful in making this happen, which I believe they are, this will be to the detriment of aviation. So when you mentioned that by 2035 the Airbus and the Boeing of this world will have new technology, perhaps no one really knows, but it will not be electric. That won't work, as we know, as you said. And I guess that SAF, as will be discussed by SAF 3, will be
Infrastructure, every airport. There is no, I mean, I was in Davos in January in the panel. I had Felipe and the CEO of Heathrow that said, no, I don't believe on hydrogen. Then leave one airport, because we made a huge investment in SAF, of course, in the last year. If we don't have this possibility, if we don't, all the airport have hydrogen, then we will not move forward. If it will be successful. That's very much okay. We see smokes wherever, that might be not more attractive, but you know, there are many threats around. But you know, again, we have to be optimistic. You know, and, everyone is blaming aviation, and you know, as a target. But everyone, okay, during COVID, everyone forget about the environment. All become plastic, sealed in order to be safe. Then we forgot the environment for 2 years, and then the first thing that people done after we get our lives back, as we said also in Greece, is we jump into an airplane and to go holidays.
It's not
Then,
easy
you know,
to find even one seat.
Sorry?
It's not easy to find seats.
Exactly.
Still.
Yes, still. And it's still here, you know, I'm here in Bodrum. I was yesterday in Kos, full of people moving around. I was in Istanbul 3 days ago, then it's full. I mean, people have the need to travel. You know, this was in the DNA of humanity.
Yes.
That's why we explore the world. Then we'll not change, but as you said, we need to find a way to promote ourselves. And this is what with my good fellow friends Fabio and inshallah.
And DNA of the human being also affects the DNA of aviation.
Correct.
It's,
And again, I mean, for this collaboration, we need IATA, ECI.
if there is no any other questions, I would like to summarize what we have discussed this morning. So, DNA of aviation was also affected by the safety, security, capacity, efficiency, and also the new developments. As we were talking about sustainability or innovation, but as we agreed all, there are enough rooms to move on technology and innovation and sustainability side, especially SAF and synthetic aviation fuel side is really not clear yet in order to get the targets until 2035. Hopefully next month they will get a clear decision to go further, but the the technological side is still not clear which way we will go on that respect. So the new technology, artificial intelligence and big data also will be the new tools for aviation industry, digitalization as well, and expert staff is also another key issue during the upcoming period. And we will continue to discuss these opportunities and challenges of the aviation industries, and also we have put forward some issues on disruptions, potential threats, and the low-cost carrier operations. So I would like to thank to Mehmet Bey, Kostas, Tamara, and Cem Bey for your valuable contributions, and also thanking to our organizers, Serkan Bey, for hosting this important event, and also big thanks to the audience for your participation and listening your time. And also I would like to thank to our sponsorships, sponsors Hitit and Çelebi. So I believe we come to the end with these summaries. I hope I have not forgotten any other messages. So thank you very much, and Fabio, also thank you for coming to this event and with your contributions. So looking forward to seeing you next time or next year maybe.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Take it to our